Brother stole my $2.3 million inheritance while I cared for dying mom. His texts exposed him. I should have known something was wrong when Marcus started calling mom every single day. Let me back up. 3 years ago, when mom got her pancreatic cancer diagnosis, I made what I thought was the obvious choice. I quit my marketing director job at a tech startup in Denver, packed up my life, and moved back to the family lake house in northern Michigan to take care of her. My husband Tom was not thrilled about uprooting our twin toddlers Emma and Jake, but he understood. Mom raised me and my younger brother Marcus after Dad died when I was 16. She deserved to have family around during her fight. The lake house had been in our family for 40 years. Dad bought it as a fixer-upper when Marcus and I were kids, and we spent every summer there swimming, fishing, and building memories. Mom always said it would stay in the family forever. $2.3 million worth of waterfront property that she had promised would be ours someday. Marcus, meanwhile, was living his perfect lawyer life in Atlanta with his perfect wife Sarah and their perfect golden retriever. He visited exactly twice a year, Christmas and Mom's birthday, staying just long enough to charm everyone before disappearing again. But suddenly, after the diagnosis, he was calling every evening at 7 sharp. Those first few months I was grateful for his newfound attention. Taking care of a cancer patient is exhausting. Between doctor appointments, medication schedules, and the gradual deterioration of someone you love, I was drowning. My savings account was bleeding money since I had no income, and Tom was struggling to manage his freelance graphic design work while helping with the kids and Mom. The calls seemed sweet at first. Marcus would put on his smooth lawyer voice and tell Mom jokes, share stories about his cases, and ask detailed questions about her treatment. Mom would light up whenever he called, laughing harder than she had all day. I told myself I should be happy that he was finally stepping up, even from 800 miles away. But then I started noticing things. Marcus would ask Mom specific questions about her medical decisions, her doctors, her mental state. Not in a caring son way, but in a cross-examining a witness way. He would say things like, "Mom, you seem really foggy today. Are they giving you too much pain medication?" Or, "Are you sure you are thinking clearly enough to be making big decisions right now?" When I mentioned it to Mom, she would brush me off. "Marcus is just worried about me, honey. He is being protective." Protective. Right. The breaking point came 6 months ago. Mom had been having a particularly rough week with her new pain management protocol. The doctors had her on a morphine drip that left her confused and sleepy most of the day. She would forget conversations we had had an hour earlier and sometimes did not recognize Tom when he came home from picking up the kids. That Tuesday, a lawyer I had never heard of showed up at our door. Richard Henley, a state attorney, all-expensive suit and fake sympathy smile. He said he was there to update Mom's will and that she had requested his services. "I am sorry," I said, blocking the doorway. "Mom never mentioned changing her will. She updated it 2 years ago with our family lawyer, Jim Peterson." Henley smiled that condescending smile lawyers perfect in law school. Mrs. Davidson specifically requested a new attorney for this matter. She felt it was important to have fresh perspective on her estate planning. I found Mom in the living room staring out at the lake with glassy eyes. The morphine had her in that twilight state where she was awake but not really present. "Mom, there is a lawyer here. Did you call him?" She blinked slowly like she was trying to remember something from a dream. Marcus said I should update things. "Make sure everything is in order." My stomach dropped. "What kind of updates?" Just making sure the boys are taken care of." The boys. She used to call us both that when we were kids, but lately she had been using it to refer to Marcus and his future children. Never Emma and Jake, never Tom. I should have stopped the meeting right there. Should have called Jim Peterson. Should have demanded to know what Marcus had been telling her during those daily calls. Instead, I let that slick lawyer into our living room and watched him manipulate my morphine-addled mother into signing papers she barely understood. When I asked to see the documents, Henley gave me some legal nonsense about client confidentiality and said Mom had specifically requested privacy during this process. Mom just nodded along, her eyes unfocused and distant. 3 hours later, he was gone, and Mom was asleep on the couch. That evening, Marcus called at 7 as usual. I answered instead of Mom. Hey, sis. How is our patient doing today? She is sleeping. Marcus, did you recommend that lawyer who came by? Richard Henley. A pause. Too long of a pause. Mom mentioned she wanted to update her estate planning. I gave her a few names of attorneys who specialize in that kind of thing. Why? Because she signed new documents today while she was barely coherent from pain medication. Do not you think that is a problem? Sarah, Mom is dying. She needs to get her affairs in order while she still can. Would you rather she wait until she is completely incapacitated, the way he said my name, like I was being hysterical, like I was the problem? I would rather she make important decisions when she is not high on morphine. Look, I am sure whatever she decided is what is best for everyone. Mom has always been fair about these things. Fair. The golden child talking about fairness. Over the next few months, I tried to forget about the will situation. Mom's condition was worsening, and I had bigger concerns than inheritance drama. The twins were struggling with seeing their grandmother decline. Tom was working 16-hour days trying to keep us financially afloat, and I was running on coffee and determination. But Marcus's calls continued, and they were getting stranger. He started asking Mom about the lake house specifically, how much it might be worth, whether she thought it was too much house for one family to maintain, if she had ever considered what would happen to it after she was gone. Marcus keeps asking about selling the house. Mom mentioned one afternoon while I was helping her with her medications. My blood went cold. Selling it. Why would you sell it? He thinks it might be too expensive for you and Tom to maintain. All the upkeep, the property taxes. He is worried you cannot afford it. I wanted to scream. We had specifically moved back here so the kids could grow up in the same place I had. Tom had been researching local schools and talking about converting the guest house into his art studio. This was supposed to be our forever home. Mom, we do not want to sell it. This is where we want to raise Emma and Jake. She patted my hand absently. Marcus thinks it would be better to sell and split the money. More practical. Practical. Everything was always about what Marcus thought was practical. 2 weeks ago, Mom took a turn for the worse. The doctor said we were looking at weeks, not months. I called Marcus to let him know he should probably come visit soon if he wanted to say goodbye. He arrived last Friday with Sarah, their golden retriever, and 2 suitcases that suggested a longer stay than his usual weekend visits. They took over the guest room and immediately began treating the place like they owned it. Saturday morning, I found Marcus in Dad's old office looking through Mom's filing cabinet. "What are you doing?" He did not even look embarrassed. Just making sure all her important documents are organized. You know, for when the time comes. Those are Mom's private papers. "Sarah, I am a lawyer. I know how to handle estate documentation. You should be grateful I am taking care of the legal complexities." There it was again. That tone. Like I was a child who could not possibly understand grown-up matters. That afternoon, while Marcus and Sarah were at the grocery store, I did something I'm not proud of. I went through their suitcases. In Marcus's laptop bag, I found a folder labeled Lake House Development. Inside were printed emails between Marcus and something called Northern Michigan Luxury Developments. The correspondence went back 4 months. 4 months. He had been planning this since before Mom's latest decline. The emails made my hands shake. Marcus had already gotten preliminary quotes for tearing down the lake house and building luxury condominiums. The developers were offering $3.2 million for the property, with Marcus getting a finder's fee for bringing them the deal. But the worst part was a text message thread I found on Mom's iPad later that evening. She had been using it to video call Marcus, and somehow his messages had synced to her device. Marcus to unknown number. 2 days ago, the old lady finally signed everything over. Should have the property free and clear within a month of the funeral. Unknown number. Your sister going to be a problem. Marcus, Sarah has been playing nursemaid for 3 years. She is exhausted and broke. She will not have the resources to fight it, especially not against a probate attorney. Unknown number. What about her husband and kids? Marcus. They will have to find somewhere else to live. Not my problem. I sat in the dark kitchen staring at those messages, feeling like someone had punched me in the stomach. This was not about practical estate planning or Mom's wishes. This was about Marcus cashing in on our family legacy while I had been changing bedpans and administering medications. The next morning, I made my own phone calls. First, I called Jim Peterson, our longtime family lawyer. He was shocked to hear about Mom's new will and immediately requested copies of all the documents. When I described Mom's mental state during the signing, his voice got very serious. "Sarah, if your mother was on heavy pain medication and exhibiting signs of cognitive impairment, that will might not be legally valid, especially if there is evidence of undue influence. Like daily phone calls from a lawyer's son who stood to inherit millions." Next, I called Dr. Martinez, Mom's oncologist. I asked him to review Mom's medical records from the day she signed the new will and provide documentation of her mental capacity at that time. He agreed to prepare a report. Then I did something that felt like betrayal, but was really justice. I forwarded those text messages from Mom's iPad to my own phone, evidence of Marcus's real motives in his own words. Mom died peacefully on Tuesday morning. I was holding her hand. Tom was reading to her from her favorite book, and the twins were napping in the next room. It was exactly how she would have wanted to go, surrounded by the family who had actually been there for her. Marcus arrived for the funeral with his expensive suit and practiced grief face. He hugged me and said all the right things about how grateful he was that I had been able to care for her these past 3 years. He even teared up during his eulogy, talking about what a wonderful mother she had been and how much the lake house meant to our family. 2 days after the funeral, he called a family meeting. "I know this is difficult timing," he said, sitting in Dad's chair like he already owned the place, "but we need to discuss Mom's estate. The will is pretty straightforward. She left the lake house to me with the understanding that I would handle the sale and distribution of proceeds." Tom gripped my hand under the table. The twins were playing in the next room, oblivious to the fact that their world was about to be destroyed. "Sale?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Sarah, be realistic. This place is worth over $2 million. The maintenance costs alone are $15,000 a year, plus property taxes, plus insurance. You cannot afford to keep it. We never asked you to make that decision for us. Mom made that decision. She knew what was best." I took a breath. This was the moment I had been preparing for. "Actually, Marcus, I do not think Mom was capable of making that decision. Not when she signed that will." His lawyer mask slipped for just a second. "What are you talking about?" "I am talking about the fact that she was heavily medicated and cognitively impaired when your attorney friend pressured her into signing those documents. I am talking about undue influence and questionable mental capacity. That is ridiculous. Mom was perfectly lucid when she made her estate planning. Decisions." I pulled out my phone and opened the screenshots I had saved. "Is that why you texted your developer friends that the old lady finally signed everything over? Because she was so lucid and making independent decisions." The color drained from Marcus's face. Sarah looked confused, but Tom squeezed my hand so hard I thought he might break my fingers. "I do not know what you are talking about." "I have your messages, Marcus. All of them. The ones where you call Mom the old lady and talk about getting me out of the house. The ones where you coordinate with developers behind our backs. The ones where you admit she is cognitively impaired but then use that against her." He stood up, pacing now. "You went through my personal communications. I went through Mom's iPad, which had your messages synced to it. Messages that prove you have been manipulating a dying woman for months to steal her property. Steal. This is my inheritance. No. This is you manipulating someone who trusted you while she was vulnerable and medicated." The argument that followed was brutal. Marcus threatened to sue me, called me ungrateful and delusional, accused me of trying to steal his rightful inheritance. Sarah mostly stayed quiet, but I could see her putting pieces together. Finally, I played my last card. "Marcus, I have already filed a contest with the probate court. Dr. Martinez has provided documentation of Mom's compromised mental state during the will signing. Jim Peterson is representing me, and he is confident we can prove undue influence. You cannot afford a legal battle. You are broke. Actually, Jim is working on contingency, and I have been documenting everything for months. Every conversation where you coached Mom on what to say, every question you asked about her medication levels. Every time you undermined her confidence in her own decision-making. That was not entirely true, but Marcus did not know that. The silence stretched between us until Sarah finally spoke. "Marcus, what developers?" He looked at his wife like he had forgotten she was there. "It is nothing." "Sarah, just exploring options. Options for what? I thought we were keeping the lake house in the family." I almost felt sorry for her. "Almost. Show her the folder, Marcus. The one in your laptop bag labeled Lake House Development." The fight went out of him then. He slumped back into Dad's chair, looking older than his 28 years. "I was going to tell you after everything was settled." "Tell me what?" "The house needs too much work. The foundation has issues, the dock needs replacing, the roof is 15 years old. It makes more sense to sell to developers and split the money." "That is not your decision to make," I said quietly. "This was Mom and Dad's home. It is where their grandchildren are supposed to grow up. It is just a house, Sarah." "No, it is not. It is our family. It is our history. It is where Dad taught us to fish and where Mom read us stories on rainy afternoons. It is where Emma and Jake took their first steps and said their first words." I was crying now. 3 years of exhaustion and grief finally catching up with me. "You threw all of that away for money you do not even need." Marcus left that afternoon with Sarah and their dog. He did not say goodbye to the twins. The legal battle took 4 months, but Jim Peterson was right. The combination of Mom's medical records, Marcus's text messages, and testimony from Dr. Martinez about her cognitive state during the will signing was enough to invalidate the document. The court ruled that Mom's previous will, the one that left the lake house to both Marcus and me jointly, was her true final testament. Marcus did not contest the ruling. I think Sarah had something to do with that. She called me a few weeks after the court decision to apologize for not knowing about Marcus's plans. Apparently, they are in marriage counseling now. We offered to buy out Marcus's half of the property at fair market value, using the life insurance money Mom had left for that purpose. He accepted without negotiating, probably eager to distance himself from the whole mess. So here we are, 8 months later. Tom converted the guest house into his art studio just like he had planned. Emma and Jake are enrolled in the local elementary school and spending their afternoons catching frogs and building sandcastles. I have started freelance marketing consulting, working with clients who understand that family comes first. The lake house needs work. Marcus was right about that. But it is our work to do, our investment to make, our legacy to preserve. Sometimes I watch the twins playing on the same dock where Marcus and I used to spend our summers, and I think about how different things could have been. If I had not fought back, they would be living somewhere else right now, and luxury condos would be standing where 4 generations of my family built their memories. Marcus sent a Christmas card this year. No personal note, just his and Sarah's printed names. I have not decided whether to respond. People ask me sometimes if I am angry at him for what he tried to do. The truth is I am mostly just sad. Sad that he was willing to destroy our family for money he did not need. Sad that he saw Mom's vulnerability as an opportunity instead of a reason to protect her. Sad that he will never understand what he almost took away from his own niece and nephew. But mostly, I am grateful. Grateful that I found those messages in time. Grateful for lawyers like Jim Peterson, who believe in justice over profit. Grateful that Mom's true wishes were honored in the end. And every morning when I wake up to the sound of waves lapping against our dock, I am grateful that some things are worth fighting for, even when the fight is against your own family. The lake house is ours now, really and truly. Marcus cannot take that away from us anymore. And Emma and Jake will grow up knowing that sometimes, when the people you love are counting on you, you have to be willing to fight for what is right, even when it is hard, even when it hurts. Even when the person you are fighting used to be your little brother who you taught to swim in this very lake. Some legacies are worth preserving. Some battles are worth winning. This was both.